Hey there, I'm going to start doing some more video critiques. I think might be just a better way to explain things for you guys. What I'll probably do is just do all of them together, and then you can find yours. I'll try to do them in the order received. And so anyways, yeah, let's just go through this. I think this is looking pretty good. You've got a lot of the details there. I think some areas you can still need to add is it looks like the top of the gunsmith thing is missing. Let me check back in your image. Yeah, it's not in here either. If we look at the render, sometimes I get an error and stuff is missing, but it's not there. The front of yours is gray, and on mine it looks black, and I'm not sure why they're different, but usually if that happens, the trick to fix that is to go to display. Actually, sorry, not display, to go to normals and reverse, and that looks normal again. So normals are kind of it's sort of like the direction the faces on the surface are facing, and they're kind of, instead of facing towards us, they're facing away from us. So let's get the reference back open. So yeah, that top piece there, you can see these have kind of rounded humps in there, and yours just have sort of, I mean, starting to have shape, but I would kind of, make about 3 humps there for those brackets. I think this extends out further, so this is gonna, extend like that. Similarly, there's a cap to the top of this piece right here, and that has little brackets on it like these as well, that are going to go there. Obviously you need to put in sort of like the window sill here, and the window frames and all that stuff, the window panes. I would say if you look at the distance between these columns and the front of the porch, and between these columns and the front of the porch, see these are a lot closer, and I would say the porch itself is probably much more narrow. I mean, you might even be able to just do something like that, and that already looks closer to me. You can get like some nice detail like this around the door. The columns, we had a couple people ask about columns, so I might show you that right now since there's been a fair amount of questions around that. So let me show you guys how to do a column. I'm going to just make a new file. Yeah, I guess just to finish up first, though, I think overall the proportions are good, the sizes and shapes. There's a lot of things left to add. You can add the barrel and the chair and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a good start for blocking. So when you make something, by the way, I simplify the interface here just to make room. If you hit Control spacebar, that'd be Command spacebar on the Mac, it'll get rid of the interface features or put them back. So that's also a good way if you're like missing a part of the interface or something suddenly. If you just do Control spacebar twice, it'll toggle them back and forth. So let's display the grid, and I'm going to go to the front view, and the way I do that is if I hold down the spacebar, I get the hotbox. If I click in the center, I get these different views, and I'm going to go to the front view. And when you build something like a column, you want to generally do it at the origin, which is along the center line, because to get the pivot point in the right place. So I'm going to go to curves, and I like the CV curve tool, which actually isn't here. So let's go to create CV curve tool, and it's kind of hard to see this. I'll have to use my imagination to some extent, but we'll fake it. So I'm going to start exactly on the center line. If I hold on the X key, it's going to put a point exactly on that grid position. And if I hold down the Shift key, it'll draw a perfectly straight line, but it hasn't started putting in the curve yet. It's just putting in points, and it doesn't actually put in the curve until your third point, or fourth point, third point, fourth point. So I'll just do there, and actually let's just one more here, and I'm holding down Shift to go into straight lines, and then one more there. That's the top of it. and then holding down shift, and that's that top section. And I don't know, maybe there's something that goes out like that, and maybe like, oops, seems like it goes out a little bit here. And again, it's a pretty blurry picture, so just putting in some extra points there. A little thicker at the bottom, I think. And then kind of one really close here, just to get that slightly around the corner, and hold down X. And then again, very important that these are at the center line. Enter when you're done. And I'm not real happy with that. This should be a lot taller at the bottom, so right mouse click and then choose Control Vertex, and I'll select these. W for move mode. Move those up. Maybe something like that. And I think this is, I'm going to R for scale these down a little bit to make that tighter, and maybe scale them in this way a little bit. Move this up, and I think the whole thing is too thick too, so I'm going to just select those and move those in. That'll probably be better. So right mouse click, go to object mode, select the whole thing. You'll notice that the pivot point is at the precise center here, and that's why I built it at the origin. If you ever need to move a pivot point, if you're in a move mode and you hold on the D as in David key, I'm holding down D, and now I can move the pivot point around. If I hold down D in combination with another key, like the V key, V is for point snap, and I middle mouse drag, let's get from the center here, it's not snapping. Okay, it's not snapping because the points aren't visible. Let's do D and C together, and that will, see how it's sticking to the curve, and I can just take it all the way to the end of the curve and get it back there. Again, I don't really need to do that in this case because it was already exactly at the origin, and I snap my point to exactly the origin. Anyways, when you're done, I'm going to go to Surfaces, Revolve, and there I'm getting a column. It's black again. I don't know why it's is that from normals reversing? Okay, not sure. It's kind of weird. And you can also, so this is a NURBS, and what I might do is instead, I'm just hitting Z several times to undo. I might build this as a polygon anyways. So let's do surfaces, revolve. If I go into the options, I can choose polygons and revolve, and get a more polygonal line. If I hit 3 for smooth mode, I can see what that looks like. 1 for rough. I can also use the smooth function in the polygon things to get more detail. So mesh, or we edit mesh. Sorry, mesh smooth, and so then it looks smoother and nicer. So anyways, that's not looking perfect. I'm not really happy with that. I mean, one interesting thing is because I have history turned on, if I select the curve, if I select this and shift marquee select, it'll toggle selection. I have the curve selected now, and then right mouse click, go to control vertex. I have the control vertices of the curve selected now, so I can take these guys out. I'll go back to the front view, control alt, and then drag a box will help you zoom in. Kind of move those out a little bit, and see how it changes the whole surface by just changing the curve. So anyways, that's a quick tutorial on how you could build a column. I'm not that happy with it. I think I could have done a better profile curve, but hopefully you get the idea from that. That is the one for Brian. Good job, Brian. This is looking good. Some basic blocking, but I think, yeah, you have a lot of detail left to add. The next one on here is Johnny, and let's take a look at that one. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. So this is the Marshall building, and you can see it's got a start. It's got some likeness to it. Needs a lot of work though. The first thing I've noticed is that it's all combined, and that is not going to be helpful at this point. To get rid of the pine, I can just go to mesh, separate. But there's also sort of a cool, it's a pretty advanced trick, but and it's fine to do it the way I just did it, but I'll show you in case you're curious. This history here, this list of functions, these are all the things that Johnny's done to the surface so far, and there's a trick to kind of step back through these. So if I click on, but kind of beware, make sure you save before you do this. But if I click on the surface and do Control A for Attribute Editor, and see this polyunite right here, I can click that tab and actually select it, and then I can hit the delete key, and yeah, it looks like it got rid of the material that was assigned to it when I did it. That's why it turns green. So it's just another way to do that, but I'll probably just do it, the normal way. It's just that's an interesting way to step back through this step. So poly separate. So there's no real reason why we'd want that to be combined right now. So yeah, it's a good start. I like that you put these sticks in there. That's a nice touch. I'm noticing a lot of stuff like, I think this porch is too big and too thick. I would go much thinner with that. And yeah, maybe push this all the way back here. And these columns, kind of, it's hard to tell if they're square or cylinders. I think they're square, but what you have, yeah, I think it looks a bit taller. One thing I can do, I'm going to go to the front view. I'll just hold down the spacebar for hotbox, click in the center, go down to front view. If I hold on to Control and Alt, I can draw a box and zoom in that way. I like to do shading, wireframe unshaded often, and to me it looks a little short. So if I right mouse click, go to Vertex, and make sure I do that for all of these. I can grab all of these at once. Oh, you know what? I'll need to get the columns too. Let's do it this way. Let's put everything back to object mode. Let's select everything, and then just switch to component mode, and then I get all the vertices all at once. So I'm just going to marquee select all those, and then I can just pull everything up at the same time, because I think it should be a little taller. And yeah, the height of the door is a bit too high, and whoops. You're going to want to add these window panes in, and the doors look much too big compared to the size of this right now, so those are going to have to be smaller. And you're going to want to add these other windows. I can see you've added a barrel, but I would say that's probably on the wrong side. It's also too big. And we want a little window on the side here. This piece of roof is looking a little funny, so you're going to want to slide that up. And it's also, I think it's at too steep of an angle. I think this roof is a little flatter, and probably this is going to go further back. It looks a lot longer to me. And then, yeah, you'll want to straighten this out. I might go to the side view, F for frame selected. I might just rotate this till that's flat, and then move it to make it straight. It also seems to be rotated slightly this way. One trick is if I kind of scale these this way, it sort of flattens them out nicely. That looks pretty straight, although it's probably still a little bit too thick, so I might take those and move them in a bit. Yeah, and then you'll want to move that up. Anyways, yeah, you've got some basic blocking, work on the doors. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention was, see how it looks sort of, you get this strange, what we call an artifact here, this weird kind of black thing. When you see artifacts like that, it's usually because their surfaces right on top of each other. So you kind of got to pick stuff like this apart. Yeah, one thing you can do is if you are showing faces and you have the face centers turned on, this face right here, that little dot right there, that's always a bad sign. If you see the face center along a line, it should only be at the center of a face. So that's telling me there's some kind of like extra face in here, and this is constructed, it's kind of a mess here. So what I would do in this case is I would just start the doors over again. I think it would be easier. I might, one quick trick too is if I go show, isolate, select, view selected, whoops, and front view again. Yeah, I might just go and let's get rid of the grid for a moment. Just get rid of these faces. Oh, I have that weird kind of yellow thing. That's when you have soft select on. Hit B, it'll turn that off. I'm just going to select all of those and kind of control select anything I did not mean to select. Let's just make sure we didn't get anything besides those door faces, and then delete those out. Oh, there's also kind of a hole at the bottom here, huh? That's a little tricky. Yeah, so let's just take these out, take these out, take that out. And then, oh gosh, and then we have all these splits here. Yeah, it's been a bit of a mess there. So I should be able to get that back with fill. See, those are split too. I mean, honestly, I might just start over, because you could just start over with a cube and get it into that shape really quick. It's just pulling apart the mess that is that area there. It's going to take more time than just doing this part again. So I would just redo that. And the thing to do is don't try to build the doors into the surface. Just cut a hole for the doors. So if you were going to do that, let's just show this stuff again, and yeah, create polygon primitive cube. If I hold down D and V, I can snap that to the corner there, which will help, and then I'll hold down V for point snap and middle mouse drag, and that'll snap that over here, and that way when I scale, now it'll scale from that corner. And move that up. Take these and move them down. W for move. Really quick, you can get a new... Oh, I made a mistake here. I had accidentally selected that when I moved these down. So I just did undo, moved it back. Yeah, something like that. Anyways, you can put more time into it. Yeah, I think you had this moved forward a bit, up to here. And can move this up. Okay. And then to do the door, I mean, the way I don't necessarily use booleans a lot. Let me just show you how I would do that. I would just add some splits in here. So let's see what the height of the door is again. So it's actually, I'll leave those on. So maybe the door goes that high. So I like using modeling toolkit, which is this key right here. I know this wasn't really covered, and go to multi-cut, and if I hold down control, see, it's going to put a cut through this whole thing. So let's say that'll get me, let's look at this perspective so you can see what's going on better. So it's putting this cut around the whole thing, and so I can put a cut in there, and then hold down one here. It's pretty narrow actually, that front door. Like, it might just be between, like, it's a little confusing because these these should be all the way moved to the edge. So that's sort of throwing me off. And then kind of make these evenly spaced. And I think now it's going to be easier to place the door because it's much narrower than the space between those two. So multi-cut, hold down control, and I can put one thing here, one thing there, and then if I wanted to build it from the object, I could. Probably need one right down the middle. Let's look in the front view there. Okay. So now I have those faces, and that kind of blocks out the door. I can do ones sort of around the edges to get the door frame. And then if I have to move one, I'll just triple click on or double click on that, and it'll select the whole loop, and I can move that over. And then I can start doing some extrudes to get the door going. So I might select like these two faces, and let's go to polygon, extrude, and kind of move that in. Maybe scale it down a touch, just a touch, and then gonna hit extrude again and gonna scale these down a whole bunch, move them in. Oops. This is where I want to probably move them down to here, because that's going to be that lower part of the door. And then I might do these one at a time. If you do extrude options, in this case, let me keep faces together. It doesn't. Anyways, so you can start to see how you can break these up. I might just do one side at a time just to show you. And then I can hit G, and that'll extrude again. Kind of scale that down. Move that out a little bit. Anyways, you can see how I'm starting to get some of the door shapes. So I'm not going to obviously do this whole thing, but that might be a little bit, I know it's different from what was covered in the class, but I thought it might be interesting to see another approach, and I might work on the doors and windows a little bit more like that. Or you might want to cut out the hole and then build it in, but this way it works too. So and then just keep going like that and add all the little panels. And you could add a bunch of cuts for the little panels and then do little extrudes. But I like that multi-cut tool. If I hold down Control, it drag along a horizontal line, it does a vertical cut. If I drag along a vertical line, it does a horizontal cut, and it'll give me like a nice kind of clean surface in the end. A little bit more than I planned on showing, but I thought that might help.